Only here's. What's that? Is that the EOP?
Yeah,
What are you trying to explain yourself?
I'm going to do just that.
I have not scratched copy. You want me to put on my copy?
No, it's okay, scratch copy works, but you can get your copy out.
I haven't memorized.
Okay. We'll see, I'm gonna test your knowledge. Jack,
Tuesday? Oh, jeez. You're in the update. Heavy rain for east of us. Just you want to. I don't think so.
well,
No snow for us Thursday.
oh, darn it. I wanna put a snowman.
You know what happened? Everybody, it's named after your girl's street.
If it's what?
Named after your movie street.
Is Javier doing that? We gotta get him.
It's already started.
Oh, okay.
I think it's gonna turn on.
Turn it around.
Another projector.
Oh.
It's so dry outside, the skin's already dried out. Don't you hate that?
Yeah.
I mean, this year's really comfortable.
Now I have a Mac, so using that
Oh.
computer like throws me off. Okay, Melody, on the AED grants, you're gonna write them, right? Are you gonna coordinate through the committee?
Yeah, I just got, I'm buried in there right now.
So,
Hey, Mike,
Yeah,
can you hear us?
because the American Heart Association has 4 different grants for AEDs. And I'm
Yeah, I hear y'all.
down through them
Here I am.
in classes online.
Yeah.
oh, you know.
Here we go, can you see it?
A week for that?
Yeah,
You can take
they're
that
free.
and do that.
Are you able to see
Yeah,
it?
they're free, and it's, you get certified.
Awesome.
It's put on by a non.
Are you able to see it?
Or nonprofit.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in different categories.
Great.
for
I
nonprofits.
would love to see that, please.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you can share that, that's
sure
great.
can.
Yeah, because there's a couple of the grants that we're looking at there, and if you're gonna carry the AED ones, then I'll look at some turning the other ones. And I may stop in your office to talk to you about them.
I actually cranked out the material the first class.
Oh, okay.
So you can read through it and it just kind of gives a brief overview of
Yeah,
what it is.
I would love to do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Mike.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good, thank you. And you? Happy New
Great.
Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Yeah.
You have a good holiday?
I did, thank you. Yeah, it was fun. Got to see my younger son, not my older, but definitely had a good time with them up in New Hampshire, Boston.
I love that area. Any snow?
No.
Ah, darn it. No, I'm praying for snow this weekend, so cross my
Yeah.
fingers.
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. Mike, thanks for making this 4 o'clock slot. I'm glad we could all arrange to be here. Eddie's not here. He's got some mobility issues today, so I don't know if he's gonna join online or not, but I'm hoping he might. But we'll see. We'll just move forward without him. So everybody got a copy? Mike, you have a copy of the agenda?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Jack, for sending that out.
Yeah, Jack's done a great job of that.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go through the agenda, recap and review actions from last meeting. So it's been a little while since we met last time. I started to go through some use cases, and look at things as projects. Right now, I see the biggest things we've got going on are the E911 markers. I know we looked at Brightspeed alternatives, but I don't think that's all packaged up and thought through yet, so we still have to do that. The operations plan, the emergency operations plan, Mike, I need to talk about that. And then related to that, just from a status standpoint, Javier, have you met with Chief O'Prandy yet?
No, I've been playing telephone tag.
Okay,
So I have it on the top of my list.
okay,
That and looking through the agenda, Brightspeed. That
yeah,
fell off the.
we need those done. So
So-
if you could bring those to the top of the list, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Because I don't wanna, and the reason I say, I went through the EOP, the emergency ops plan, I went through it and I have a ton, just a ton of questions. I don't know if you've looked through it,
Yeah.
but I would like to get with Chief O'Prandy and ask him a few things to clarify from Scottsville's point of view.
Let me reach out to them and then I'll.
Yeah, I've been playing phone tag with him too.
Have you talked to him, Mike?
I think so.
Mike, do you hear us?
Yeah, I think.
Have you talked to Chief O'Prandy at all?
Yes, I have a couple of times since our last meeting. He's very willing to work with us. He just feels it needs to go through the proper channels, which would be the town's representative on the Emergency Communications Center team, whatever that's called, the emergency representative. I think that's Javier.
Yeah, it is Javier.
Or Javier?
Yeah. So he just wants to follow.
He's the coordinator.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's like the military process here where it's
Chain of command.
stay in the channels. Yeah. Stay.
Yeah,
stay in the
well,
channels.
sometimes chain of command sort of gets in the way of progress.
Yeah,
But
that's
okay,
right.
as long as he's aware that Javier's trying to get a hold of him. Emergency access points, we've talked about those. You've gotten some quotes, Jack.
Yeah.
All right, for those.
It's up to you what you guys wanna do, I recommend, I talked to Mike Folk the other day about, if you guys didn't know, recently, we could go through ECT. I don't know if that's possible for us, but I know we should potentially ask them if they had it already,
Okay,
and in place, we can just get us looked into it, I don't know if that's.
now, in terms of chain of command, is ECC also
Yeah,
that up to
yeah,
Chief of Command?
Yeah, go through Chief Penny,
Okay.
so basically, from where I'm seeing from the chart, or maybe it could be Jim Carter, Javier, Mayor, and the rest of the people, so Tim Carter would be the person probably be. Or the contract or Javier, one of those people will be able to.
Javier.
Javier probably be able to request it. Or go through my call.
Okay, so Jack, can we do this? Can we put that as an agenda item? Let's get that moving on next investigate internet emergency access points. Let's just have a broader conversation about that at our next meeting,
Okay.
all right? So that should be top of the agenda. Next one, look into better E911 addresses for private roads. So I'm meeting with Tim Kersley next week. We're gonna do a walkthrough in town, and I asked him a question about placement of E911 markers. And if he had recommendations on where E911 markers should be placed. Jack came up with several areas that had policies on the books that all properties should have
Oh,
an E911
So
marker.
basically, if you have multiple mailboxes, we have a street like that at Discovery. That's not marked mailboxes, and that's private street, going towards the Mink Creek Dam. I feel like those should be a top priority, and those stuff.
Well, what you sent me was either, I think it was either Lisa or Lynchburg or
Yeah.
something like that. Where they had an actual policy
Yeah.
on the books that said all properties must have an E911.
I don't know what the ordinance is, I don't know.
Okay, that's something we have to talk to Javier about. But first, I wanna get the background. So Eddie had the big blue E911 signs. We talked about Fluvanna had done it for their county, Buckingham had done it for their county. For some reason, Albemarle isn't doing it for their county. We'd like to do it for the town. I'm meeting with Tim Kersley to walk around and look at the different types of properties we have in town and see about placement. Because I want to put a package together and take it to council for their consideration, but I want it to be pretty thorough. So I want it to have the type of signs that we want. I want it to have the placement, positions, locked down,
Yeah.
potentially a policy that all properties should have an E911 marker. We could look at that. Yeah, I like the smaller green ones. That's
I don't
what
think-
the banner has.
I don't think they're-
They are.
I don't know.
Yeah. And then, the last thing is funding. So I want to talk a little bit about funding. Mike, do you have any thoughts about funding sources for these things?
Well, yeah, that's an open item out there with federal funding that's available for what are called community, CAIs. I can't remember what the A is. I was looking it up while it came to my mind, but essentially there's going to be what's called BEAD funding, the broadband funding that's been made available through the federal government. And individual ISPs can apply for the funding, and specifically for the community locations, whether it's a library or a town hall. There may be some additional funding that would be available to provide resiliency to those locations.
Okay, so,
That's the idea on whether we could have some funding set aside through the government that helps offset the cost of emergency access points. So let's say we put one up at the town hall.
right,
If the fiber connectivity that's happening there goes down, or maybe you guys are on, I can't remember how you're set up there, but if that goes down, then we'll have the ability to set up a wireless access point that connects with one of the wireless providers. And Jack's going to quickly say, well, sometimes when the fiber's out in that location, the cell towers are out. So, it's kind of a long-term strategy for emergency communications, how we can provide some sort of funding through BEAD, the new federal funding that's available for this type of work, and whether that's a valid use of the BEAD funding is something that I've got to work on.
okay, so you're gonna look into that?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Wish I had a definitive yes, we could apply for it, but I still got to do some more work with the ISPs. So yeah.
Yeah, and I realize that, when we're talking about these things, because we're working A, in the public sector, and B, they're complicated things. I realize that it's gonna take a long time to get some of these things done, right? So we're not on the short, you know, we're not on a short
Yeah,
path to
yeah.
success. We're actually on a long path to success. But, you know, it'd be good to just have little, small milestones that we can reach. That's what I'm trying to do with these E911 markers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
This is low hanging fruit, I think, but it's also, you know, we need, how many residents do we have? 500?
500-ish, depends on how many people do it when they build this.
Yeah, so we have 500 residents, and then if you look at, what are the signs, about $30 each?
I vary some size,
Yeah,
between like 35 something,
yeah,
so. I did also get approval from my nonprofit, Scottsville for 17, to be able to fundraise for this, and to be supportive of first responders,
okay,
but I don't know if how that work. I'm still trying to figure out the loopholes of all that. But I think it was a good start to try and to do public outreach, to get people educated, see if they want to give us donations.
yeah, well, let's not just look at donations, let's look at some kind of campaign, you know, sometimes you'll go into towns and they have like, buy a brick, right? And the brick is used to, build a sidewalk in the town or something like that. Let's think about a campaign. Could you look into that, Jack?
Yeah.
The funding campaign that we might be able to. You know, to mimic, to get funding for these E911 signs. I mean, we're looking at $15,000 if you were to cover E911 markers for all the residents. But some of them already have it, so I'm assuming it's not gonna be all 500, you might be looking at 350.
I think we can walk around Scottsville.
Yeah.
Exactly which one who has what
Right,
signs, they mark, if they didn't.
well, maybe after I meet with Tim and we do our walk around about placement, maybe you and I can walk around and try to gauge
Who has
what
what.
percentage
Yeah.
of the businesses and.
My only question is, what do we do about apartments, like the 2 apartments there in Scottsville, because they have multiple doors and multiple residents on different levels.
Okay, well, I'll take that as an action item to look at that.
I know that the Scottsville apartments have 2 levels. And I have a list, I do have a list that I got from them of each apartment.
Okay. All right, investigate and communicate life back to local restaurants and schools. I know Eddie has done some of that, but I don't know where he is, and unfortunately he's not here today. Communicate the use of fire blankets versus fire extinguishers. In a conversation, Jack, you and I had, you said that needs to come through.
Each go through fire.
So Tim, I need to talk to Tim
Yeah.
about that. All right. Confirm evacuation shelter and transport system in the event of an emergency. Mike, this was yours. Have you had the chance to talk to anyone in the county just to get official
Yeah.
confirmation that it's, the evacuation points, as I recall, were the schools,
Yeah.
right? And the transport system would be
John.
Jaunt, yeah, but we don't, you know, the confirmation of that, and I keep, you guys are gonna think that I'm just passing the buck here, but that's another one that John O'Prandy needs to verify for us.
But in the ops manual, it does talk about a jump for
Yeah,
transport.
I think that's a confirmation is in this.
Yeah,
This-
but I want to hear it from Chief O'Cranie himself, right? I want some kind
Yeah,
of thing
Yeah,
that says,
that's the thing, it's not,
yay, very.
Javier, I don't think would be what I'm looking for is the process.
Exactly,
know,
Mike.
Yeah, it's like no one
Exactly.
knows.
When I went through this manual, and those are my biggest questions, and I want to talk about that a little bit today. Because everybody keeps saying to me, oh, Eileen, we got to cover, we got to cover. I'm like, yeah, okay, what about this? What triggers? So if it
Exactly.
happens, and I want to go through this, if an incident happens, how does Javier get contacted? How does Javier know to bring it to level 2? And level 2, once it gets to level 2, it's at the county level. So it's sort of out of our hands, so I'm less concerned about how it gets from level 2 to level 3, which is federal and state. level, right? But
So,
do you have an answer to this?
but.
Hold on to it, well, till we go
Right.
through the
That's
process.
completely different, here is what I'm saying.
Pardon?
There's two different structures for Scottsville.
Let's hold on to that, because I want to go through an exercise today, Jeff, so thank you. Comp plans for community and incident command. I started to develop a newsletter that we could share with residents, with businesses, but I don't know, do you all think that social media is probably a better mechanism for that, or do you think like a written newsletter is good? Yeah, any feelings, Honey?
Social media, from what I heard with, it isn't emergency preparedness, but like holiday professional Kimberly told me it was like social media where everybody was paying attention to it.
I've seen an increase from
Yeah,
social media.
and then I'm not on Facebook though, it
Yeah.
feels like that, right, Jack?
Yeah.
Yeah, Facebook is a big thing and I'm not on, but, you know, Ready Scottsville on Instagram is getting a lot of good attention, I think. And Jack and I talked about leveraging Ready Scottsville for more than just weather, because that's what his initial focus was. But start expanding that to,
I've told policy, I'm not gonna post any kind of.
no, we're not posting town meetings, we're just posting information for the community, that's it.
Yeah. So
Right,
I'm gonna bring
so-
that up in acquisition traditions.
So I saw some counties had really great information pamphlets for residents like in winter. Are you winter ready? Right, and they talk about not plugging your space heaters into extension cords, right? Reminder, this causes fire, so don't do that. Or to, you know, make sure that you've got enough food for a few days. I thought it was interesting in the emergency ops plan, because everybody keeps telling me, the county's gonna handle us, the county's gonna handle us. But even in the operations plan, it says that we need to be prepared to be self-sufficient for at least 72 hours. At least. So that means we've got 3 days before the county SLA would kick in to respond to us, right? So if let's say we have a regional outage because of a snowstorm, clearly in here, I see UVA mentioned, I see Charlottesville mentioned, I see 0 mentioned about Scottsville, really, there's 1 or 2, but it's tangential, right? And I see very little even about Crozet. But, you know, those are where the attention's gonna go first, because that's where the population is. So we have to be prepared, I think, Javier, for at least 3 days. And I'm a little concerned because if you're downtown, you know, in the Charlottesville area, and you have to monitor everything
Yeah.
back here, you either have to have a deputy, incident commander, or coordinator, or you have to do it remotely. If there's no internet available because of the storm, then we have a huge problem, is who's in charge of Javier's night. Okay, so these are the things I want to go through in terms of this plan, and exactly to Mike's point about where is the process. I see these are the things that need to be done, but I don't see the process, so, okay. Town maps have been completed, Jack's done that. Javier, one of the things we talked about, is maybe finding a way to get Jack funded for some of this work. Like for events and things like that, if we need specific maps, is there something that we can charge and have a pass through to Jack for his work or something like that? Can you just do a little bit of thinking for that? Because it is a lot of work to put this stuff together. Yeah, and it would be nice. Jack's done a lot of work for the town. We certainly appreciate, Jack, all the work that you have done. But it would be nice if we can find some, you know, even some opportunities to get hidden funded. All right, we covered the meeting with Brightspeed, notifications and alerting through ECC. That's got to be explored. Sources for grants, we have one that Melody's going to look at for AED devices in town. She is going to point me to an online course that's free for grant writing. There's a couple more. Jack found one from the DWR, the Department of Wildlife and what is it? Resources, wildlife resources. There might be some opportunities there. I will say, Javier, and we've talked about this before. So I took a stop to Louisiana to their, what's the park over there?
Pleasant Grove.
Pleasant. On their signage, before you get into the park, it talks about if you have an emergency, do this, right? And on their map, it has a big red section at the bottom that if there's an emergency, do this. Identify your mile markers, call the sheriff, you know, do this, do that. We have none of that. Now, I tried to coordinate this with the Parks and Rec group, but I don't know if they got my point because they kept trying to answer my question. And the answer I got is, well, if somebody gets hurt in the park, we just carry them out. I don't know that that's a great response, because we don't know who's gonna be around and what's gonna happen. I think the town's at risk if we don't have some signage or we don't have printed maps that tell people what to do in an emergency. So I don't think it needs to be done immediately, but I think it is a long-term goal that should be on somebody's agenda.
So I was looking at their agenda and their like park policies. And I was hoping they'd start baking that in. And then that would be the first order, and then the second order becomes. As much as you're putting up a sign that says this is the Billy Goat Trail. This is the number, or this is our safety policy.
Exactly, and you know what, you should maybe talk to Jim Bowling about what that verbiage should look like. For emergency policy, we might have to run it by Chief Jenkins and Chief Kersley. To see what they have. I don't know if the county.
I was gonna ask, hey, Mike, can you reach out to ECC and see if they have a policy in place for special access rescue? Protocol,
Special, sorry, I was,
special rescue access issues.
So if somebody gets
Special
hurt, yeah, if somebody gets hurt in our park.
Yeah, and they have to. Be
okay,
down here,
And you have to have a medevac, or you have to bring,
gators.
you know, if our volunteer fire and rescue isn't available, the county's gonna send their people in. What, you know, what is their process? How do they get people out of a park, especially with
yeah,
ours that has no mile markers or no signage around it, right?
okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I see, it's called special rescue access issue.
Special rescue access, okay,
SPEC.
okay.
RS.
That's not in the, that's not, there's nothing in the emergency operations
No.
plan.
Yeah.
No, okay,
I just wanna know what the protocol is, so we can try and make a thing with trails down here.
okay,
Yeah,
Yeah,
if they put a protocol or they have specific verbiage that they recommend, you put on who to contact, that kind of thing. You know, that they use for the county, it'd be nice to know that for the town too.
yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I'll check with John on that. Yep,
So we got the operations plan, 146 pages of
Yes.
whatever. Request for alerting, we covered that. An approach to evacuating pets. Do you remember in going through the operations plan, did you see anything about this?
I completely forgot, to reach out to a colleague of mine who's part of this task force. She owns a pet sitting company business in Charlottesville, so I'm gonna try and reach out to her. And see if we could be able to partner with her to evacuate these pets down here.
Do you remember the fire that happened down in Charlottesville in the pet kennel?
Yeah,
What was the happy, no, is it?
no, it's all of their streets, huh?
Yeah, it's off of Harris.
Harris Road.
It was a big deal to have a lot of animals, and thank God they recovered most, I think only 2 animals died in that fire. But they went through a lot of policy updates about what to do in an emergency with the pets they were housing. They might have some information too. So I don't recall seeing anything about, but I didn't go through all the ESFs in detail.
I don't see any.
Because they have 17 ESFs, right?
Yeah, when I went through it, I didn't see anything.
Did you go through it, Mike? Did you look through the emergency operation plan?
Not for that.
No, I mean, for any, did you go through it in detail? Do you remember,
No,
do you remember seeing anything? Okay, so,
no, I need to. It's definitely on my list of things to do.
For your light reading.
yeah, it's interesting.
I used to, when I was IT director, I had to contribute to it, so,
Oh, yeah, I would imagine, yeah.
yeah, but.
Okay, all right, so that's still open. Confirm evacuation site and transportation at the time, we talked about that, yeah. 911 requirements for historic properties, I'll have to explore that with Tim. Let me do some research on that and redundancy options, we've already talked about that. Okay, so that looks like our action item list. It looks like we're moving through it slowly, but we are moving through it, so that's good. All right, next on the agenda, projects and status. We talked a little bit about where everybody is, grants, E911, resiliency and redundancy in communications. What else? Park policies.
Yeah, that was something I have, that's the, how do we finish this, the exercise related to that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, and then, all right, so I think we're pretty up to date on that. Are there any questions about the projects and what we've got going on?
You might be having anything?
The thing that I wanted to bring up with Smart 911 is Lily Craig informed me that no one is asked to separate those categories, or more granularize those categories. So to me, that means there's a possibility that there could be Scottsville specific emergency alerts. It's not, obviously it's not a guarantee. I think the risk is because it's so large. I mean, the county is so large that if Scottsville gets their own, then the possibility that Crozet might want their own. You see what I mean? But according to Lily, it's like you can't hurt yourself by requesting. It's like, Javier or the town council could send an email to the ECC, Sonny Saxton, who's the director, asking him if there's a possibility that we could add an additional category. So hopefully that just made sense. I think it did.
It did.
Okay.
It did. So, Javier, should we bring this up with the council, do you think? Or do you think it's worthy just you reaching out to Sonny on this? So it's basically, the alerting system for emergencies of having a category that's just Scottsville, because right now, if you subscribe to county alerts, you just get bombarded with everything in the county. But we don't care about everything in the county, right? We only care about Scottsville and maybe the surrounding area. But so it would be nice if that alert system could be more granularized, so that if a fire happens down here, if you're subscribed to that service, Javier, you would get an alert to say there's been an E9 or a 911 call for fire emergency. Really? Why?
Because usually when those fires happen, they don't, big crowds around.
Well, how does the media know before we know, right? There's some dispatch channel that somebody's monitoring.
Pulse point is what they use to monitor.
Okay, so pulse point, it doesn't matter if it's on ECC, right? Somebody's gonna get it. And it might as well be us.
I think different more probably have to be careful wording.
Well, I think it's worthy of exploring. If Smart 911 has said, no one has asked, I think to Mike's point, it doesn't hurt if we reach out and ask, is it possible for us to have an alerting system? Listen, at that fire, there were a number of businesses down there who were concerned that they weren't gonna get an alert, that their business was potentially near a fire or on fire or something. If you're the building next door, you would wanna come down and potentially look at what the situation is, right? So, I think it's worthy of exploring. So Javier, can you take the action on that to,
Yeah, share the contact.
I
information.
shouldn't do,
Yeah, let's follow up on that.
it says, that's Sony. Like I said,
Jackson?
Sony Saxon at MR.org.
Email.
Yeah.
So this is Javier. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be worth it, whether or not it violates protocol or whatnot.
Yeah.
We won't know till we
I
ask.
just want to be cautious about certain calls that we respond to.
Well, and I'm assuming that they tag those calls with
Already.
coding, right? So if it's a suicide attempt, for example, you don't necessarily want everybody
Yeah.
alerted about that, right? But I'm
Or-
assuming they have code.
Like, it's like a special issue, the police have to read, I won't send that out.
That's right, but they should have all that tagged by
Yeah.
code. So you could say, these are the codes that we can and can't use.
Yes.
So does that make sense, Javier?
Yeah,
If you need help, like with any of the context or drafting any of the email, I'm happy to help.
okay, let me, I'll probably touch base once I have the contact information, double check. That I have it framed right, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you see the value, right, though?
Yeah. It's like, if there's a filter or something like that. 'cause-
Yeah, and if, and if you're out of area, let's say, it's after hours. And we have a flooding incident, a fire incident, I would think you'd wanna know.
Yeah.
Because you're the incident coordinator. Right, so, and if you can't be here for weather reasons or otherwise, then you need to kick on the deputy.
Yeah.
Right, so, think about it. All right, Jack, Ready Scottsville platform, what do we wanna cover here?
Okay, so. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page about Grady Scottsville. Basically, what my goal was when I started this is to promote preparedness, outreach. I know that. Several counties surrounding northern parts of the state, Commonwealth Community have this program. And Grady, Arlington is where I got the main idea from. And basically, I wanted to implement it down here as to post if there's a outage with internet to make sure people are aware of this situation, what to do. Certain protocols, mostly graphics, let you know that we've been successful so far with. So people came up to me recently and told me how impressive it was on Instagram. So I think we should try and get the this moving forward with intermediate our community, try and get the town approval to make this official organization. Through the EPC, and of course it'd be funding, when the town would not be able, town would not fund this, it'd be third nonprofit actually be funding this. Zero cost to town. So I'm thinking that this would be beneficial for the town. Until we get with plus the alert system, we be helpful because it, I've seen places where they can auto post alerts via Smart and One. I think it would be beneficial to use Smart Ready Scottsville as the main platform for the town alert system. And I've been working really hard on graphics recently, trying to get everything up to speed for events. We're going to hopefully be able to utilize it during the Battle Festival, if there's lightning alerts, any type of stuff that we be posted.
So, Javier, what is what are the right policy channels to be able to use this for communication?
Like, our own, there's two people who communicate out for the town, and this police chief and the town administrator.
Okay,
That's separate from, something, somebody gets reached out from the press or something like that.
So
So,
that would be during flooding.
yeah,
that.
yeah, so like Jack pushed it over towards the chief,
Yeah.
like that, touch base like that. So that's like the official conduit like that.
So this is what,
but there's nothing right now that stops Jack from doing it on his own, right?
Yes, yeah,
So he can do it on his own. It's the issue of whether it's connected to an official communication channel through the town, correct?
So what I do, I go through my chain of command. When I make posts, I go through chief of police, make sure it's okay for me to send this out. I go through Eileen, the committee thing, and I also go through you.
Yeah.
So that's why I make sure we're on the same page, because I don't, like I said, I don't want to step on anybody's toes about this. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page on this.
And I think that's a good approach.
I do too. I do
Like,
too.
I mean, that's because it's like, it's two members and then, you have your liaison. for the
Yeah.
police. So like. A clear structure or recommendations coming out of the EPC also.
Yeah,
And then communication with like, with the chief and I.
yeah,
And going forward, in case like Ready Scottsville,
yeah,
changes or we change how much it's contributing,
yeah,
that will help out.
Yeah.
Because then I have like a clear,
Yeah.
also,
I get
narrative.
Yeah, basically, I can send my ideas, draft images, so I can get her input on it and stuff, so I can send it to you, draft first,
Right.
to see what you think, what needs to be changed.
Because I am belonging on the tour.
I know, you are.
Yeah.
And I said to have it for next approval, then that's, because a lot of this chief's wife asked about graphics that meeting. So I want to make sure I go through the strict check, and I don't want one of my policies is to not post anything police call related down here. Is confidential,
Yeah,
and so that's one of the things I said I want to post.
right. Well, and also I think we should use it bi-directionally. So if you have things that you think are important for the town,
Mhm.
then you should feel like you can use Ready Scottsville as a platform to communicate out. to.
Then we can, Facebook has an excellent thing where you post alerts to the surround, like 5 mile, you can select the certain mile radius of Scottsville. I'm trying to figure out how to set that up for you, but you can set up alerts to post to social media via Facebook page. So I'm in the process of trying to investigate that.
Okay, cool.
So you can circle like click here Scottsville, give you a 5 mile radius, 2 mile radius, or 10 mile radius.
Well, it would be good at some point we formalize that to say you can monitor, events in town through Ready Scottsville,
right.
an Instagram link, a Facebook
Yeah,
link.
like I said, I want to meet with you,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to meet with you about, as soon as possible, utilizing it for big events like July 4th.
Right.
Hotel Festival. I know I did check out Rain, New York is pretty incredible what they did with theirs in Times Square then. But, that's one of my goals, trying to get different ideas from different, agencies to see how they do it. But I think Ray's also pretty impressed.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job.
And basically, my goal is to educate public safety
Mhm.
and make sure people care so we don't lose any lives in disaster.
So I like the idea of, you've already dug into what other policies
Yeah,
are using in regards to, for lack of a better term, like a similar platform.
yeah,
I can sit down with you and draft something, that would clarify it all
yeah.
and put it into kind of writing. It doesn't have to be extensive, like
Right.
everything, but.
In fact, you should, right? You don't want
My
tons of
my only
text.
question is, we just need town council approval.
I think. I first want to formulate it
Alright.
and then make a judgment call off of that.
Because I haven't, I wrote, I
That's
typed it,
what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah,
because I didn't know what this needs to come through you. Because there's no, I haven't said government organizations for right now, there's no other choices that match.
Mhm.
What that is, so I had it set up as government organization, because my original idea is to. Partner with the town
uh,
and use this as a joint account,
uh,
and then somehow figure that out along the way, so this is a baby step process.
Yeah, so that's what he's referring to, Javier, is a type
Yeah.
code. When you create an Instagram site, it's like, what kind of site is this?
yeah,
And it's not a personal site, it's not a business site, but it is, so he labeled it
yeah,
town government.
Yeah.
Just so they didn't know what else to do and hope that it would become a more, a better channel, so just so that you're aware.
I think. My gut feeling is like, we formulate and draft something.
I have that,
Well, then
All right,
maybe,
well, it sounds like
Yeah.
you two need to meet
Yeah.
about formalizing Ready Scottsville. And then in terms of winter preparedness, I know you put out the warning for the winter
Yeah.
storm coming.
So you
But there might be some advice that we can get from FEMA or the
agree.
county that
So-
talks about preparedness that we can point people to,
Yeah.
because.
I've been looking through via Twitter feed, everything, so far the only thing I've seen is preparedness from fire rescue, so we posted on Twitter, posted on Facebook and Instagram. And that's all you see from the county level, I'm gonna try and monitor it throughout the weekend, try my best to monitor it.
I have a feeling the storm's gonna not be as big, but
But they're talking about,
we're right on the cusp.
we were right on us, this is nor'eastern
Yeah,
potentially, so I can have my joints getting right now.
it can go
It can
anywhere.
go in, it can go down.
All right. Okay, so you two are gonna work together on potentially formalizing that as an alert channel. right?
Yeah, and then my gut feeling is maybe just having also. Even if staff finds it agreeable, also to have EPC provide a recommendation on it,
Yeah, well, happy to do that.
and I think that always helps.
And you know what, the mayor is really, he has a really good balance and approach to things.
Mhm.
We may wanna like talk to the mayor
Mhm.
and see what his feelings about this are and whatnot, and we can make a recommendation and just put it in front of council.
Also,
Yeah.
another approach I
When they,
mentioned is.
Yeah, why not?
There'll
Well, we
be
can
a-
talk about it in work session.
she'll be in signing checks and I'll talk to them about.
Oh, yeah, let's talk to the mayor and then we can bring it up at work session maybe, or no, too early?
Look at the agenda, maybe.
Okay.
How's that?
We're gonna be here a long time.
Yeah, I showed it to Jack, I quickly show when he had to present something.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on from this, we got still a bunch of stuff to cover. Pre-incident planning for Van Cleve Nature Trails and Scan.
Alright, so my goal is with this, is to try and protect the town's foots in the lawsuit,
Mm-hmm,
waiting to happen. Right now, I walk this up to the scan land, and it's very confusing on where to walk. And there's no good markings along that trail,
mm-hmm,
and I was thinking about putting my marker post and what to do in case there's a dire emergency. Because I want to check your guys' thoughts on this, I know that lawsuits could happen at any moment. I was worried about somebody gets hurt back there
Mhm.
and goes unconscious, dies, there's something also on you guys.
right,
And I'm trying to make sure you guys are well protected. And what to do in case there's a dire emergency.
right, well, we talked about, emergency directives on signage, we talked about
Yeah.
mile markers, we
Yeah.
talked about emergency directives on maps. Scanland is something that I don't have much familiarity.
Alright, so scanland next to the Van Cleef Nature Trail
Right,
from the scanland at the Harbor Street. I can walk all the way up there and it's, the only thing that's telling you where to go is pink landscaping tape. Telling
Oh,
people where to go. And I mapped it out and it's like almost a mile actually. Of areas and I found along the route, there's sewer manhole covers. I feel like if we use those as the mile marker posts. From that area will probably work perfectly. I have no idea, I know that the Parks and Rec committee are very. I'm in about against this. I wanted to see if there's another way should we go around the Parks Committee, or I had no idea. I was trying to protect you guys' votes.
so, Javier, what do you recommend, Allison?
Let me look at my budget. That's always the first question. I haven't thought of it this way.
We don't want to get funding from the nonprofit, not only fundraising for this, but this is,
We can look for grants.
look for grants, matching grants.
But when I brought it up to the Parks and Rec Committee, I tried to say, if you're looking to get signage, you might wanna couple it with signage for emergencies. Because that would strengthen your case of getting a grant, right? And I don't know if they misunderstood, but they misinterpreted as answering my questions. It was like, I was bringing up these questions not to get answered, but as talking points for them to think through a scenario of what would happen in this event. Right, it's hard to say, is this in our court or their court? I don't care who takes it, it needs to be done. It is a risk for the,
Yeah,
it is,
I think as a committee, you're often providing recommendations.
they want, like, why write very strong, I'm
oh,
not,
let me finish.
Yeah. I think you can write a.
Very worded, strong language letter.
A succinct letter. That's the word.
A nice one.
First honey for. Write it as something that you see as a priority for EPC. What I'm trying to do is pull up my budget. Because in some ways you could consider it maintenance.
Mhm.
Is it?
Cause I don't think I would technically consider it capital. I can't
You
spend. But,
It
right
is a
now.
capital improvement
But
to have signage.
here's an idea. Save money, we can engrave pieces of wood. Like wood burner to a piece of wood. Or something like that.
No, it has to be treated.
Yeah, it has to be treated, but like burn it to wood, like, then paint it like reflective orange or something.
If it's maintenance, I can work on it within, I have to check our budget, but I cycle everything.
I just know that there's still a trail, my personal belief is nobody should be allowed on the trail right behind us.
The Billy Goat Trail.
But right now, my parks. Budget is, I'm waiting until February, cause I don't have appropriation for those items. So if some of it is considered more maintenance, it's looking at what it is exactly. What I would suggest is that. If you guys look at what I actually wanna put in there, cause I'm ignorant of this,
Okay,
then I could start looking at prices and looking at,
It sounds like.
what the time.
well, let's do this. Let's gather information for Javier on what Fluvanna and Albemarle is.
I don't think Elmore has any trail markers.
All right, well, let's investigate.
But-
I have the map that has the emergency director
Right
on it.
here.
Yeah, I downloaded that, I took a picture of it when I was at Fluvanna. And, we can get together a recommendation and then put in a request for funding and activity.
We can
Does
check
that
it,
sound reasonable?
we can check,
And if you need to take it somewhere else, you can, if you can fit it in your maintenance budget, just fit it in the maintenance budget.
Yeah.
we can always get Ace, try and get Ace to donate for.
Well, we can do a lot of things, but I think first we need the strategy.
I
Are they
think
gonna be wood, they're gonna be not wood?
getting a scale of that, I think I can figure out.
How many markers are we talking?
Yeah.
We can walk the trail. Dan's really good, he's very passionate
Yeah.
about the park too, he can help us do some background.
I approached them, remember we had like. We're gonna do the exercise,
Yeah, but let's just close this out, okay, so I can call Dan, we can do a walkthrough. And then maybe get an estimate on how many things we're talking about, look at what other counties do with their parks. Fluvanna is really good, I think they're a good example, and they're right in our backyard.
my assistant chief, he got over there, so you can reach out.
Yeah. Great, okay, so we'll do that and put together a package for you, copy.
That'd be very appreciated. Yeah, thank you, guys.
All right, so I wanted to go through this exercise.
I think that's in page 9.
Because Mike, this speaks to exactly what you're talking about process. I went through the operations plan and I don't understand who gets called and when. So I thought if we could start to walk through what a typical scenario or process would be, we could then have more specific questions where we can fill in the blanks. Gentlemen?
Sorry.
Okay, so in the operations plan, they have 3 levels of activity. Level 1 is local, right? So that would be handled by the town. So I consider that, Javier, it's in the ops plan here. Jack has, you can use this as reference if you want.
That's the, yeah. Page.
So level 3, I always say this back. So level 3 is local. Level 2, you consider county, and level 1 bumps up to feds and states. Okay, so let's say we have an incident.
Mhm.
Like this weekend. We have a snowstorm that brings lots of ice, that takes out various trees, downs communication. Let's leave off the emergency stuff for right now. And everybody's stuck. Albemarle is busy clearing out Charlottesville and getting Charlottesville, UVA up and running, Crozet up and running, and we're here in Scottsville, okay? So we have an incident. What happens next? Okay, so let's say we've got something in town that, extreme power outage. Now, you're at home,
Mhm.
right? So what's the first thing that happens? How do you get alerted that there's a huge problem in town that needs potential, we have elderly people in the apartments, all the power's out, the heat is gone, and you are the incident commander. How do you get an alert? Do you know?
Well. Does it depend on the incident itself?
I don't know, do you think it should? As town administrator, would you want all, there, so let's differentiate, because there is a difference between first responders and what they're doing to handle the alert, and what the town needs to do to support, to communicate, to be the incident commander on the ground. You are the guy who has to, if money needs to be spent, if people have to be evacuated. Tim Kersley needs to call someone.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's you.
Yeah.
Right, so when we get an incident, Tim or Chief Jenkins is going to alert you.
Yeah.
Right? So I will call this, I see, incident commander, right? So this is Scottsville incident command. All right, then what happens? What are your responsibilities as incident commander?
So it's communicating out to the county almost always. Especially
Okay.
if it's something big like. I always think of like the levy. That's
Okay,
the one. So it's,
we take that as an example too. Do you then call somebody at the county level, at level 2? So there's an incident commander at the county,
yeah,
so that would be probably O'Crandy.
yes,
So there's a county incident commander. Okay, what about, so you're gonna tell them what is going on in town? We're flooded, or we have storms, we're out of power, we've got elderly who are at risk. What does that interchange look like?
so that,
This is just letting them know?
yeah, cause mostly what is. Then, from what I read, it's, then I become a conduit for communication. Because I
Okay.
stay out of. First response, of course,
So you alert them just that we have an incident and it could get bigger.
yeah,
Right now, it's being handled as level 3, but it could bump up to level 2.
and then. What will happen is. I'll get things fed down to me, usually it's communications, that's the most. That's actually applicable to me specifically,
Right.
because all those other operation stuff, it's like kind of out of my wheelhouse.
Okay, so what do you view your communications responsibilities to be? So you're going to alert the county, we've got a big incident, it could bump up to a level 2. Right now, we're handling it locally, but be on alert, right? So then what happens internal to the town?
So
Do you call the mayor?
Yeah.
Do you notify Ready Scottsville? Do you inform business owners? What happens after that? Do you know?
So then, I think of it as. The mayor, right, like that line you have right there,
This one?
yeah,
Well, let's do this. Let's call this comms, right? So you're gonna do communication, right? You see your first level as the mayor. You're gonna say, Mayor, we've been flooded.
Yeah.
The levee looks like it's been breached, the pumps are working, we're not sure if they're gonna hold.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, what else are you gonna do?
and then. Beyond that, it's, well, we already have the chief and a Brandy there.
Yeah,
So,
and they're gonna, they're gonna give you the heads up, right? Because they're the first responders. If there's any E911, or if they're manning the pumps,
yeah,
they should call you though, right?
yeah.
Okay,
So, for example, last time they ran the pumps, I talked with them
okay,
and then looped the mayor.
yeah, they said, okay, all right. So what else is gonna go on? Are you gonna communicate? Because the businesses wanna know, if there's a flood in town, they wanna be alerted.
And that is part of the policy that I wanna figure out. Cause that alert going back and forth,
Okay,
Which one, down in here?
between level 2 and level 1.
Okay,
Most
well,
of it, I think, is like, oh,
but we're still working on, we're handling it in level 1 right now. We haven't had a trigger to say, hey, let's bump it up to level 2.
so I sent having an example of what the incident command structure is, so Scottsville, might you can pull it up.
okay, which email is that?
It's maybe link on page 9.
But see, I'm less interested in the command
This is
structure.
the command structure for all incidents and stuff.
I understand, Jack, but that doesn't answer the question that Mike brought up about process. What happens, right? And who does what? Listen, when I was talking to somebody, who was I talking to? About the event in Charlottesville, okay? When they had the incident with the demonstrations, and it got out of hand and somebody was injured, right? So the town council's out giving misinformation about what's going on. Everything's kind of helter-skelter. Nobody knows who's communicating to whom, and it was a little bit of an internal disaster. Right, that's what I'm trying to avoid here, right? I just want a general notion of who, and so it's not just who's in command. I get that Javier's the incident commander, that there are the first responders, that there are ESFs that we have to adhere to, but I wanna know not the what's, but the hows,
So,
right? Like it talks about level 2, but it doesn't tell me in that manual that I could find, and maybe Mike, you found something different. But how is it determined? And I'm assuming that Chief Kersley and Chief Jenkins have a role to play in saying, okay, Javier, it's time to bump this up to level 2. Right, and then Javier, you're gonna call your level 2 incident commander and say, okay, we need county help. Right? But what happens in between? So comes to here's the open question for me. News media. Who communicates to, last time when we had the local fire, the news media was here before,
yeah,
right after the first responders. I mean,
I think.
so- yeah, and they were overwhelming our staff on the ground, trying to deal with this thing, and I think Chief Grant's staff did a great job of taking, without any, qualms to say, yeah, later, guys. The news media, businesses,
Did you find it?
community. So should the community be alerted that, hey, we are under a level 1 emergency? You know, get your to-go bags ready, just in case. Right? Or do we just leave the public hanging? Right, we talked about train derailments in East Palestine, Ohio, right? People weren't alert, right? Other people were brought in. Hazmat things were set on fire. Now we have toxic fumes all over the community. Again, not really well handled. And the local town officials got a lot of flack for how that whole thing went down, as did the Board of Supervisors in Charlottesville when that whole thing. Yeah, the council, sorry.
Sure.
Yes. So, sitting in the seat I'm in, I don't want to be in that position, right? I want to kind of know what my role is and how I want to be able to, if I'm down here and somebody asks me, I want to be able to say, okay, it's a level 1 emergency, I've been alerted, you know, how do you inform the town council? The levee, it has been breached, the pumps are working. Mink Creek is flooding, we don't know how it's gonna hold. We may go to level 2, right? We'd like, at least I would like to be involved and know what's going on. Jack is actually my go-to guy for that right now. But we should have official channels.
Yeah, so I have access to Mid Creek, Javier can pull it up for a second, that's to show you, like, what they use for Mid Creek's like town structure, that's what they share with you.
Yeah, sure.
Can you figure it out, Javier? So I'm gonna stand up next to it, explain to you what it is, so this is our Mid Creek action plan, if this fails, dam fails, or something fails, or anything catastrophic happens with the town of Scottsville. This right here is what we do as the incident command structure right here. This is stage 1. This is at the beginning stages of the dam fail. So right now is the battalion chief, Tim Carr, who's the levy supervisor. Then we go scroll down to town administrator, which would be you, okay?
Right, well, we have to change that.
Yeah, we have to
We're
change
no
that.
longer
Yeah.
involved.
And then we alert the regional, which is Buckingham, Savannah County, to let them know this is happening.
Okay, so what we're missing is a couple steps.
Yeah.
Does Javier have to call Buckingham and Fluvanna?
But you see how it goes, so you see 1, 2, 3, 4, those are your steps. So you see number one,
But see, this doesn't have news media, it doesn't have
this goes down,
mayor, it doesn't have,
see stage 1,
you know, I get it, Jack, but it's still at a very, very high level. Okay, so Javier is supposed to call Fluvanna County or Buckingham County,
then the next stage, there's more in it.
and Scottsville volunteers?
This is
Is
all,
that yeah, really old.
go down. There's those, so this is stage 2, this is where it gets bigger.
Is this level 2 in
This
the
stage
ops
2,
plan?
no, this is the plan for the creek, that's the demonstration.
All right,
So you see it gets bigger for stage 2.
I understand.
So you go Tim Carter, town administrator, then you get National Weather Service, the dam, the state safety officials. Then you got VDOT, ECC, the engineers who came up with the plan. Then you got the VDOT, state EOC. That's when you want to call it, I guess what the protocol is, you call state EOC to tell them we have this active incident. That you see right here. There's operating procedures.
But why does he call? Oh, say, so the town administrator calls Fluvanna County Emergency ECC,
Yeah,
and they call the Fluvanna County Sheriff's Office?
the same thing, so they're run by the sheriff's office. So these two are the same thing.
All
But
right,
this one right here is emergency manager.
and this is just for flooding.
That's for flooding.
Did you know all this, that you have to call all these people?
Yeah, so.
Mostly.
Stage 3.
Yeah, but we've never gotten.
Yeah, so basically right here is your national web service up in Washington DC. But we do get contacted by Blacksburg because they're in charge of the James River. Not DC, but James River.
See, but this is the problem I have with this, is because when I have asked about the process. They said it's all in the Main Creek plan. This Main Creek plan doesn't have for anything else except for flooding. So if we have a weather emergency and the power is down. How do we communicate with vendors about telecommunications and what is the ETA on getting power
That's
back
what
up
brings-
so that Javier can then raise it to a level
That's
2?
that's what I'm wanting to discuss, try and get that thing effective. I know that we don't have anything but flooding. And stuff, so
And it's not current.
is that current? This is from like 2020.
See, notify downstream residents. Who does that?
That's the state, see, it goes from,
So town administrator calls Albemarle County ECC. And ECC notifies downstream.
no, so they go,
residents.
no, you see, it goes, your question. So it goes from ECC,
Yeah,
PD,
right,
VDOT,
right,
no, it goes to here. Then it goes, because the emergency management coordinator for Albemarle County alerts state.
right,
The state goes down to state police.
right.
State police notifies people downstream.
State police.
Yes, I think that's what it does. Because that's the main corridor, I think.
Have you talked to them?
State police now. And then.
I don't know, this does not sound like,
This is what I got told, this is what we.
I know what you're told,
Yeah.
but I would like to see a drill on this. to actually work.
So you see, this is what, I think we should build on these for other incidence structures, like an EICS template.
Yeah,
And to clear this up, because it's quite confusing from what I'm seeing.
yeah, do you see what I'm getting at, Javier? Like,
Yeah.
as an incident commander,
Cause this is primarily Mink Creek.
I know it's Mink Creek, but like, the state police is gonna notify our residents? How are they gonna know who to notify? How did they know?
This is, you see,
Can you answer that?
you see, goes from Beadham to state police. You see what I'm saying? This is all in their structure, because they're a state agency,
Right?
plus they have connections.
So VDM has a current list of all our businesses and residents. That's the question I want answered, Jack.
I have no idea, this is what I'm trying to figure this out, so.
See, I would think the local residents would get notified
So
at
just
the
go down.
local level.
If you go scroll down, go back for 1 second. So this right here says a message from, this is what you say for recordings, I guess, I'm assuming. This says,
This has a, to EMC, I'm at Mink Creek Dam, the water level has risen in the emergency spillway to the threshold established in the emergency action plan to move to stage 3 emergency level. Based on current situation, the dam is at a stage 3 condition. Please proceed with the standard operating procedures. I will remain at the dam to monitor continuously until the dam breaks or the water level recedes to safe level, and the EMC directs me to terminate my
so you
responsibility.
see this?
That's you.
So you see this, this is gonna read, did you see this? It says, note, sheriffs and state police shall be responsible for providing emergency services. Notify evacuees affected jurisdiction areas.
But that seems to conflict with what we're seeing in the ops plan. That the county is responsible for evacuating residents
But this is,
and,
because we have our own government, it's different than compared to county government, you see what I'm
Well,
saying? That's what I'm thinking is.
no, I
the issue is.
understand, but I think we need to get this straight. Because everybody keeps telling me, we got it under control, it's all in Main Creek. This is not clear to me.
It's just
And
funny.
there's no thing in here that says, okay, here's where the mayor communicates. The mayor should be communicating with the news media. He's our primary communications.
But here's what we did PIO.
And who's the deputy administrator if Javier, let's say there's flooding down on Route 20 between Charlottesville and here, and Javier cannot be here in person, then who's the deputy that is here on site that's gonna call
Yeah.
and give them that message? And does that deputy know to give them that message?
Yeah.
Right, we've got a weather alert coming up for this weekend, guys. We need to get straight on this.
This is like the $1 million lottery ticket
Yeah.
first. Hey, since you work with IT, what do you think? Mike, which
Me?
idea?
Well.
I'm crazy here, Mike, or what? Well,
Yeah,
don't,
this
maybe
is,
don't comment on that.
I got a comment, I'm gonna behave, keep my mouth shut. So I have to ask,
Wait, let Mike read.
yeah, I think this is a good example of an agenda for, the risk and resiliency team, whether it's John or Emily who come down and work with us on this. I think they have this understood for most of the areas of the county. I think the town's reaction to this is valid and needs further thought. A lot of times they're going to say, well, we're responsible for all this. There's no role that the town administrator has to take in an emergency like this. But, we can't verify that unless they walk us through what they're actually going to do and whether or not they have the valid resources. The one thing they would like to hear is that there are resources that are available to them. We just have to understand how those resources are activated. It's like everybody's going to need hands-on, but we just need to know where our roles and responsibilities start and stop. Otherwise,
Right, and
we're
if,
not going to have a valid response, right? It's just going to be confusion.
yeah, it's gonna be helter skelter, and in here, when they tell the local communities that they need to be prepared to be on their own self-sufficient for 72 hours.
So,
That tells me that Javier, as the incident commander for the town, does have a big role to play.
Yeah,
County cannot be here in that time frame.
so from what I understand, the 72-hour periods to do damage assessment to send to the state. To see if they'd be able to issue state of emergency for the town, that's what I got told. When I had met with O'Cranley and Chief Jenkins a while back about the task force stuff, ideas. And they told me the 72-hour periods for the county to come down and do their storm surveying. And what the 72-hour period is, gives them time to, they have a 72-hour period for FEMA stuff. And certain criteria that 72 hours is your time frame to do your damage assessment. And see what needs are needed. And I took classes on this recently. It's basically like a 72-hour period, you have to complete certain criteria in order to see if you'd be able to classify as able to be issued a declaration, federal, state, and local. Does that make sense?
Well, listen, it says here in section 3.1, although not formally part of emergency management operations, individuals, families, and households play an important role in emergency preparedness and response. By reducing hazards in and around their homes, blah, 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 individuals reduce potential emergency response requirements. Individuals, families, and households should also prepare emergency supply kits and emergency plans so they can take care of themselves and their neighbors for at least 72 hours following a significant event. So that's the county operations plan that's laying the responsibility, in this case, squarely on the residents. So the residents, A, have to know that they need to be prepared for 72 hours. And B, they have to know how they're going to get alerted that they need to be activated for a 72-hour emergency. Right? Now here it says, their plans should also provision for their animals, including household pets or service animals. During an actual disaster, emergency, or threat, individuals, households, and families should monitor emergency communications. They don't say how, and follow guidance and instructions provided by none other than local authorities. So if it were me, and I am a resident of the town, I want to know how to monitor those channels and where I can find instructions
You see,
by which local authority. Listen, this is in the county ops plan, guys.
this is why I created Scottsville Grady Scotts for this one reason. Communication is a problem down here.
It's not just a problem down
It's
here.
that's right.
It's one thing to have a policy and it's one thing to have a set of procedures.
Yeah.
But it's a whole different thing when you go to enact them, to Mike's point.
Yeah.
It would be good to get everybody in a room who has a role in this and walk them through what the process is, who's doing what for whom, how those triggers, how Javier kicks it up from a level 3 to a level 2 and says to O'Crandy, hey, Chief O'Crandy, we got a big problem here. I need county resources.
Yeah.
And he can tell me, you got 72 hours because I'm busy with
So
Charlottesville and UVA and getting them back up and running. And so we have local citizens with a higher population. Then Javier says, okay, Chief Jenkins, Chief Kersley, we need to prepare our citizens. How do we, all as residents, get alert? Right? That's where I am. So I think this manual is inconsistent with this thing and what this thing in Mink Creek is showing us for the town.
So is Scottsville complete separate jurisdiction in Amherst County?
It seems like it to me.
Yeah, I think that's what the issue is.
It doesn't even fall on their map when
No.
they show a map of the jurisdiction. We don't even register on the Richter scale.
Yeah.
Now, it said that this plan was done, and one of the questions I have for Chief O'Crandy, it says that this was done collaboratively.
Where was
I
that?
don't know who from our side was involved in this, but I'd love to know because I don't see a whole lot about some of this stuff for us. All right, so I made my point, I think, maybe too much, but there are many, many questions that I have in the ops plan. I would like to get this meeting with Chief O'Crandy set up. I would like to have his staff down here and see if we can schedule a joint session to get this updated, not just for Main Creek, but for sort of a general, any kind of emergency. Because as that authority, Javier, that's a huge responsibility. If I were in your shoes, I'd certainly want to know what we need to do. Because you have 500 people who are looking to you, right? So, all right, gentlemen, we're over our time. I'm sorry, I kept us over a little bit. I hope to go a little bit deeper through this, but I don't think we can do this on our own.
Let me know if you hear any outages, or if you hear any outages for internet stuff, I can post for you guys sections for down here. Let me know if I hear anything from down here, let me know. And then you do a couple typical plan of action, is that okay with you?
Mike's a little bit.
Mike, can you hear me?
Yeah, I didn't catch all of that.
I'm sorry,
but
so
Yeah.
do the same plan of action, let me know if we have any issues down here, you can do the same action we have done in the past, is that cool with you?
Yeah, that works.
So that's,
Okay,
we want me to post anything in social media from your side. Good?
okay.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I really appreciate it. We'll see
Thank
you in
you
2
all.
weeks.
We can make it through the summer.
Okay, bye.
Take care, guys.
You ready for? Is it still recording?
Oh, wait, I'm back to the ARP now.